everyone, and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Christany. I am the Teen Services Librarian at the Huntington Beach Public Library, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a cocoa bomb. Let's get started. Things you'll need for this recipe are a silicone mold. If you picked up a Teen Try It kit, we're using this rose-shaped cupcake liner. These can be purchased on Amazon if you like the look and want to try it yourself. You'll need cocoa mix. This can either be a packet like this or any cocoa mix you happen to have at home. A heat-resistant container. I'm using this glass measuring cup. Chocolate. This could be chocolate melting wafers like these, chocolate chips or baker's chocolate. A spoon to help spread the chocolate in the mold. And your favorite cocoa toppings. I'm going to be using cinnamon and nutmeg to create this delicious Mexican hot chocolate flavor. And I think I'm also going to use, here we go, peppermint chips, because I like a minty flavor in my cocoa. To cut down on the mess, you'll also need a baking sheet. I'm using this round pizza tin. And then I'm going to cover it with this non-stick parchment paper. So before we get started, make sure your silicone molds are washed and thoroughly dried. There could be absolutely no moisture or water in the mold before you begin pouring chocolate in, or it will ruin the tempering of your chocolate. Then we're going to want to cover our work surface or baking sheet with a non-stick parchment paper. This project can get really messy, so you want to make sure everything is clean. And then you'll lay your molds out on your work surface afterward. We're also going to pour about a quarter cup of chocolate into a heat-resistant measuring cup or bowl. If you picked up a kit from the library, I would recommend starting with roughly half the amount you were given, because we're going to need more chocolate to fill in the mold later and make that nice seal for our bombs. Our first step in making a cocoa bomb is to melt and temper our chocolate. Tempering is the process of precisely controlling the temperature of the chocolate as it melts to achieve the best shine, color, snap, and texture once it cools and hardens. Microwave your chocolate-filled container on high for 30 seconds. Then take it out and stir. It's not going to be very melted at all, but stirring is crucial to ensure your chocolate doesn't burn and it tempers evenly. Now we're going to microwave it again on high for another 30 seconds. Then stop and stir again. It should start to look a little melty by this point, but we want to keep going until there are no lumps and the chocolate is totally smooth. Keep melting at 10-second intervals, stopping and stirring after every 10 seconds until the chocolate's fully melted. So once our chocolate is perfectly melted, it should look like this. Nice and smooth, it should flow effortlessly off the spoon, no lumps at all. So now we're going to take this melted chocolate and we're going to coat the inside of our mold with a layer. We don't want it to be too thick, just enough to cover the entire surface of the mold all the way up to the edges. We want to make sure that none of the color of the mold itself is showing through the chocolate. All you see on the bottom layer is chocolate. I like using a tablespoon to scoop and smooth the chocolate around the edges of the mold. I find it works best for me. And since the chocolate's a little runny, it can also help to tip your hand a little bit to let the fluid motion of the chocolate do some of that work for you in getting all the way into the edges. Don't worry if it's not perfect, we just want to make sure that the whole bottom surface is covered. This is our messiest step, so be careful when you're working with the chocolate. There we go, looks pretty good, and I definitely got some chocolate on me, but this one's all done. So after spending a few minutes in the fridge, we're going to pull the bombs back out and add an extra layer of melted chocolate just right around that top edge to reinforce it. I find that this step is super important, because if you don't do it, as soon as you try to peel the mold off of the cocoa bomb, it just winds up shattering into tiny pieces. The chocolate just isn't thick enough or strong enough to withstand being peeled away from the mold. So we're trying to get into all of the nooks and crannies here with our melted chocolate, making sure that this top edge is really strong. I just like tipping my hand kind of side to side to make sure that I can see that the chocolate's getting into all the different areas that it needs to get into. And then once we're done with these, we're just going to put them back into the fridge to solidify again. While you're working with them, if your chocolate, like mine, started to solidify in the glass cup or in whatever container you're using to melt your chocolate, you might have to pop it back into the microwave and just heat it up again in 10-second intervals, making sure to stir in between so that your chocolate gets all liquidy again. You can also add a little bit more chocolate if you need to, but I would really try to save as much as you can for that last step because it's really important when we start to fill up our bombs. Here we go. Just need to get into the last little nooks and crannies on this one, and then it should be good to go in the fridge, and I'm going to do this for the rest of my bombs. So now it's time for my favorite part in the cocoa bomb making process. We're going to fill up our cocoa bombs with our favorite toppings. So when you pull them out of the fridge, they should look a little bit milkier than when they first went in. And if you give them a tap or a squeeze, they should feel really firm and solid to the touch. That's how you know they're all done. So now I'm going to take my cocoa packet, I'm going to tear it open, and again, you can use any cocoa mix you have, whether it's a packet or whatever mix you have at home. And then I'm going to take my, this is a tablespoon scoop here, and I'm going to get maybe 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder and put it into our cocoa bomb at the bottom. So here's scoop number 2, and that is just about what you want it to be filled with. You don't want to overfill it because then you'll have a hard time sealing up the bomb. So here we go, we're going to put 1 scoop in, and I'm just going to pour the rest in of this packet since there's not a lot left. That's roughly a tablespoon in there. So this one is actually a little bit underfilled. I'll need to come back to it later and add more. But first, this one. I'm going to make a Mexican hot chocolate bomb. I like the flavor of this because it tastes a lot like the Abuelita Mexican hot chocolate that I really love. So some cinnamon first, and then a little bit of nutmeg for some spice. Just drizzle this on top, and that's just enough flavoring to make it really spicy and good. And the second bomb, I'm going to put my peppermint chips in so I can get that nice minty flavor. And because I didn't fill it as much, there's enough room for me to put more toppings into this one. But because it's still a little low, I'm going to take another cocoa packet and I'm going to put another tablespoon of cocoa powder right on top. So hopefully this doesn't overfill it, which is the one thing we don't want it to do. We want to make sure there's enough room for the chocolate that we pour on top to reach all of the edges and make a nice solid seal to finish up our bombs. So yeah, that one's a little overfilled. This one is closer to what you really want it to look like, how much you want it to be filled, but it'll be okay. Okay, so now I'm going to take my melted chocolate and I'm going to take a nice big scoop here, pour it over the top. And like I said, we want to make sure that the chocolate is touching all of the edges. So the melted chocolate needs to touch the solid chocolate edges that we've already formed. And that makes that nice seal. So when you take the bomb out of the mold and put it upside down in your cocoa mug, you're not going to have it like spilling out everywhere before you're ready. So here we go. Looks nice and solid on this one. That one's set. So we're going to do this bomb. And I'm running a little bit low on my chocolate, but I think I should have enough to finish this out. I'm making a little bit of a mess here. It's okay. Okay, so I'm going to use the edge of my spoon to kind of smoosh it into the corners, spread it around. A bit more chocolate here. I don't think I have quite enough left in there. Here we go. Perfect. You can also kind of pick it up and tilt it from side to side. I might do that in a little bit because that'll make it a little bit easier. This last little dollop here, see if I can cover that gap. Okay, great. So now I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to tilt it around, make sure that all the edges are coated. See, it goes all the way around the edge. Now we're done with this. We're going to put both of these into the fridge and let them set for one last time. All right, it's been about 5 minutes that our cocoa bomb's been in the fridge, so now it's time to make our cocoa. I'm gonna heat up 2 cups of milk in the microwave, maybe about 2 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drop the bomb into the bottom of the mug and then pour milk over it. Your other option is to heat up a mug of milk about 3/4 of the way full and then drop your bomb inside. Whichever way you do it is up to you, it's whatever's easiest. Okay, so here is my bomb, all nice and solid. So I'm going to start by peeling off the corners of the silicone mold. It's going to break off the chocolate on the edges, and that's totally okay. Just make sure that you do this over the top of your mug or over a surface that you don't mind cleaning up, because it will break off bits of chocolate. No matter how much you try to be perfect in getting the chocolate in the mold, there's always going to be a little bit of dribbles on the edges. So once you get the edges loose, the corners, you can start pulling off the sides, and it'll peel right out of the mold, just like this. Look at that! Oh, it's perfect. Beautiful little chocolate rose. I love the design of these. I'm gonna drop it in the bottom of my mug, and then I'm gonna go get my milk, pour it over the top. Okay, I've got my hot milk here. I'm gonna move it to the side so you can actually see what I'm doing. And I'll pour it over the top. Oh my gosh, I'm making a massive mess. I knew this was a messy project. I just didn't think it was gonna be this part that was gonna be so messy. But you can already see the cocoa bomb breaking apart. You can see the milk changing colors as the cocoa is being released. And perhaps I'm gonna clean this up really quick here. All right, there we go. Mop this up. And I'm gonna grab a spoon so that I can stir the mixture, help the cocoa bomb break apart, release all of its delicious goodness. I think this was a peppermint bomb, but I don't really remember. Oh, yeah, okay, I can see some of the bits of the peppermint in there. So this was my peppermint bomb. And once it's all mixed in, the chocolate's melted enough, and the powder has kind of been worked into the mixture, it will be ready for us to give it a sip and taste our final product. Now it's time to taste our final product. Perfect. Hope you had fun making your cocoa bombs. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.